Hello and welcome to my new YouTube video. It's been such a long time since I've actually recorded a video for YouTube, and honestly, I've been just procrastinating so much about it, trying to find the perfect topic, trying to find the perfect theme, the perfect background. But as I was moving apartments last week, I realized that the best timing will never come. I may not have the bestest video quality, I may not have the most exciting personality to present on an online platform. What it comes down to initially is to just start to sit down and figure it out as you go, in a way, which is where we are right now. And with that, I lovingly welcome you to today's video where we will talk about my experience with derealization and how I healed it. If you have seen my previous videos or follow me on TikTok, I do speak about this topic quite a lot, I would say, but that is only because back at a time when I was going through my derealization phases, I felt so alone with it and I couldn't really find any resources online that showed me how to deal with this. So I decided to make a proper video on this whole topic and share my healing journey in hopes that this can be of use to you too and maybe help you on your healing journey as well. And most importantly, show you that you're not crazy and that you are not alone in this. I do think that it is important to add that the reason why you're experiencing a derealization or a depersonalization, however, for me, both of these were quite mixed and I feel like they kind of go hand in hand with each other, can be very different, and that is why I want to share my backstory just so you can see if these tips can be of any help to you. The first time that I really experienced my first derealization episode, if you can call it like that, was about 2.5 years ago now, I believe, and the reason for it was just a lot of overwhelm and stress. This might be the case for you as well, but there are some people who experience frustration, overwhelm, or stress inside of their body. They get sick or get a tummy ache when they're stressed, and there are people like me who experience all of that stress only in their mind. So at some point, that load of stress got so heavy that I reached my breaking point, and that was the moment where my brain simply dumped me out of my body so I don't have to experience that stress. Because most of the time also, derealizations and depersonalizations are a sort of protective mechanism of your body. It is trying to protect you from feeling all of those emotions, from feeling all of that overwhelm and stress. Back at the time, I had just moved across the whole country to go to university, and I think it only added to that whole overwhelm because I was alone and felt quite isolated from my loved ones. For me, this whole stress accumulated over a few months, and I started to study a major that was highly complex. I just wanted to be so great in it. I wanted to know everything. I kind of wanted to be like Hermione Granger in a way and just know every little fact because I was so fascinated by my major, which I think also added to this whole load of stress because I would study every single day from morning till night, not only because I wanted to, but also because that was kind of expected of me. A lot of the classes that I needed to take were actually mandatory, so it also wasn't like I only had to go to university for a few days throughout the week. I had to attend it from morning till night almost, and every single day. So to find a job was quite hard as well, which also put quite a lot of financial strain onto me. I had actually moved together with my partner back at a time, and I think for me the break point came when I actually found out that he wanted to cheat on me, and that was just a point where everything crumbled. I had tried so hard to keep everything together. I was trying to convince myself that it's fine and that things will get better. As I was trying to keep one area of my life together, the other one was crumbling. The person that I felt like I could more or less lean on ended up betraying me as well. And I very clearly still remember the first time that I experienced my first episode in a way. I don't know how other people experience it, but for me, most of the time, these derealization episodes came up suddenly, and usually they just lasted for a few hours. However, back at the time, they lasted for a full 3 days, which were the most horrible 3 days of my life. And it started on that one evening where I was home alone and I was watching the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Spellman. I think that's how the series is called. And I was just sitting on the sofa when suddenly I started to feel kind of hot shivers, or also it was a mix between hot and cold shivers running up and down my spine. And that was the moment where I felt like something is kind of off, something's not fully right with me. And I still remember looking at this TV screen and just watching the scene and trying to ignore what was happening inside of my body. And soon it felt like I was looking into my living room at the TV screen, but something about it had changed. It felt more distant, and it felt like I'm not watching the TV anymore, but it felt like I myself am watching myself, like from a TV, if that makes sense. I still remember like having that one cut in my memory, or that one cut in my perception, where suddenly I was standing in the living room and actually walking back and forth without me realizing. I felt like I was kind of having like an out of body experience. Everything that I was doing felt quite rigid in that moment. I was standing in the living room, walking back and forth, and understood that I am doing this action. So I went to the bathroom and started to wash my face there, but I don't remember myself walking to the bathroom. I just remember how I was leaning in front of the sink and running cold water through my hands in hopes that somehow it will get me back into my body. It's truly very difficult to explain, and I hear that from a lot of people who have experienced these derealization phases, that it's just very difficult to explain what you're actually going through because nothing truly has changed, but you feel like something is different. And that was the one episode that actually lasted for 3 full days, where I just had thought that I lost my mind completely. It got so bad at that time that I wasn't able to do anything. I felt like an infant again. I wasn't able to dress myself properly. I wasn't able to go to the toilet properly without feeling weird and uncomfortable about my body. I was certainly not able to go out. I was not able to engage in conversations with anyone. And I remember that after taking a week off from university, I did try to go back and visit one class, and I had just sat in there for 3 minutes when I again felt this horrible attack or episode come onto me. That was the moment again where I just bursted out in tears and left the university. And that was the moment where I also understood that this is not something that will just happen for a few days. It is a problem that I'm having and something that I no longer can ignore. So I made a decision to talk with my mother, and I was actually allowed to come back home and sort of have the time to collect myself. Usually, when you go back home to visit your family, you feel excited, you feel loved, you feel supported and held. But I wasn't feeling any of that because I felt like I was completely disconnected from the world that was happening outside of me. Nevertheless, somehow there was this slight little tone in the background, like a little aftertaste in your mouth, that just let me know that I will not return back to that place and that this is the point where my healing journey begins. So that was the moment where I made the decision that I'm still so grateful for today, but that was also one of the most hardest decisions to make back at the time, especially because there's so much pressure these days surrounding the topic of productivity. It comes from your family, from society, and from the internet, where you constantly feel like you have to perform, you have to be great, and you have to hustle and grind all the way through. But even though I was also feeling that pressure, I made the decision to completely back down from every single thing in my life. I took a break from university and broke up with my partner at that time. And as I already mentioned, I also moved back home. Didn't bother to think about what will I do now? What will my next move be? Maybe I need to find a job. Anytime any kinds of thoughts about the future or about the moment on how I need to fix the situation came up, I immediately cut them out and focused on prioritizing my health. Because truth is, when you're experiencing any kind of health issues, you really stop caring about anything that's happening inside or outside of you, because the only thing that matters from that point on is your health. When any occasion that was filled with stress would come up, my body would go into complete override, and these attacks and panic attacks would start again. And that is why my top priority was to eliminate as much as stress as possible. And in that moment, I felt very grateful, and I still feel very grateful to have such a loving mother that actually gave me that space to be even able to back down from everything, because I do know that a lot of people don't get the chance. That is why I'm very well aware of my privilege, and I feel very, very grateful to even have that ability to do that. If it's not fully possible for you, I just invite you to try to see how much stress can you eliminate. Don't focus on eliminating stress fully from your life. Just try to focus on creating little windows for yourself in your everyday life where you get to spend some time with yourself, where no one expects anything of you, where you don't have to function in a way. One of the biggest short-term reliefs that I felt back at a time that I would also recommend to you was to remove yourself from these environments that are putting you in this overwhelm or in these stress situations in the first place. To have that distance allowed me to gain a broader perspective. So if you can, even if just for a weekend, try to get away from that place where you feel like it is inducing these episodes or these attacks for you. It's truly not fully about getting yourself out of that place physically. It's more about helping your mind understand that it is safe at the moment, that you are safe right now. So you don't necessarily have to leave your place. You can also go out, take a walk, or go on a longer hike, or drive with your car. Anything that will help to show your mind that you're creating distance to that situation or to that place. And speaking of going out and going on hikes, I must add here that do not underestimate the power of nature. The biggest difference, or should I rather say what helped me to heal the fastest in a way, was spending a lot of time in nature on my own. I would go out into nature every single day. It is scientifically proven that nature helps you heal and also helps you reset your nervous system. Seeing how different I felt from this time when I was just constantly outside in nature, I can definitely approve that that is more than true. I also felt very held by nature. I just knew that there's nothing that can happen to me. There is no way that I could harm myself, because if I do feel like I am overwhelmed, I can just lay down onto the ground anytime, if that makes sense. So of course, since I was spending a lot of time in nature, in silence, in stillness on my own, there were quite a lot of mindset shifts that came up into my mind that also helped me during my healing journey. Those were just mindset shifts that I kept on holding on to whenever I felt like things will never be okay again, or whenever I felt like I was pressuring myself to heal and be fine again and to function again. With the first one being telling myself that I was fine before. There was a version of me before all of this happened that was fine, that was living a happy life, that was waking up with a smile every single day, and that version of myself is still inside of me. And I can't get back to her, or even better, move on into the future together with her and create another even more beautiful and loving version. I kept on telling this to myself a lot in moments where I felt hopeless, where I felt that things will never be fine again, but without pressure and without putting more stress on myself. And that was the second mindset shift that completely shifted the picture for me. After spending weeks of crying about my current circumstances and how frustrating it is to have to go through this, I was kind of done with crying over my situation. I felt like this was not bringing me anywhere, and if not, it was putting even more pressure onto myself. I was laying in bed that one morning, and I just remember telling myself that if that's how life will be now, I can at least try to make it as gentle or loving for myself as I can. If this is how I need to operate throughout my daily life, if I can't go grocery shopping as easily as other people do, if I do need to talk more sweetly, more gently to myself, and take more time to go into the city than others do, then so be it. But why should I pressure myself even more if I can also show more love to myself and be even gentler with myself? And that day, the pressure that I was feeling inside of my head and inside of my chest kind of left me. And in fact, that was the first day where I more or less managed to go through one of these derealization episodes without crying, without overthinking more, and without me spiraling into panic attacks, which showed me that by being more gentle to myself, by being more loving and giving myself that safe space where I can be however I need to be in this moment, that I can be fine again, that I can function. And that was ultimately what gave me hope. With this mindset, with showing all that love to myself, I can make myself feel safe. And for me at that time, that was the biggest reward that I could give myself, which allows us to move quite wonderfully into the next section, which is addressing these episodes or attacks. I think I will just stick with the word episodes in general, with having that more gentle and more loving mindset. Instead of asking myself, how do I fix myself, I started to ask myself, how do I manage it? How do I manage these episodes? How do I manage my everyday life now? So I invite you to ask yourself in your everyday life, how much gentler can you be towards yourself? How much more love can you show towards yourself as you're moving through your everyday life? Focus on creating that safe space for yourself where you can show to your mind and to your body that you are here to hold yourself, that you will not abandon yourself, and that your mind and your body can trust you. By fully focusing my whole attention on creating that safe space for myself, I managed to take away the focus from the thoughts of when will I heal? When will I be fine again? I need to perform again. All of that attention, all of that energy that I was spending on these thoughts, I managed to move to this more gentle, loving, and safe environment. And also, this part may be different for everyone, but whenever these episodes would end, I would feel so relieved that they are finally over. I felt like I had this little moment where I could grasp back to reality, where I was feeling things again fully. So that was what I chose to focus on as I was experiencing these episodes. So instead of pushing them away and stressing myself about them having to pass faster, I allowed them to be there, but I also kept on reminding myself of how relieving and how good I will feel once all of this will be over. I somehow had accepted the fact that things will just stay like this forever, but as I was taking away that pressure, I was noticing how my mental state was improving, and with that, these episodes started to become shorter and less frequent. And around this time, I was finally able to get a spot at the therapist, and this is one thing that I highly recommend to you as well. If you feel like you're completely overwhelmed with yourself and you don't fully understand what's happening or how you can help yourself, I highly encourage you to seek out an expert to help you and truly support you throughout your everyday life. During such a turbulent time when your mind and body is completely unsettled, what helped me most as well was finding stability in my everyday life. So I was quite strict about the routines that feel good to my body and my soul. That means that I established consistent morning and evening routines that I knew were either scientifically proven to calm down your nervous system or just practices that helped me calm myself in general. I would have morning routines where I would wake up, I would meditate, I would do yoga, I would read, but I also did one thing that I think was quite fun if I look back to it, but back at the time I thought that it was really silly. But I made myself a playlist on Spotify where I just had all kinds of songs that were filled with good vibes. Whenever I would wake up, I would make myself listen to one song and I actually had to dance to it. No matter if I was feeling like it or not, I feel like it really helped me set that more or less that playful tone towards life and not view things as seriously, which again helped me take out the pressure from my everyday life. So here, when you're thinking about how you could improve your everyday life, you can either look up routines that are scientifically proven to help you regulate yourself or help you calm down your nervous system, or you can simply fill your morning and evening routines with things that help you calm down, like reading or drawing or maybe even dancing. I also decided to shift my focus to a more positive mindset. Now, don't get me wrong, whenever I would feel bad, I would allow myself to feel these emotions instead of push them away, because that is also something that may make your episodes even heavier in a way. At least that was the case for me. I chose to focus more on my wins. I chose to focus more on my happy moments. I did have a gratitude section in my diary, so every evening as well, I would just write down all the things that I'm grateful for, no matter how small they were. Sometimes there were days where I just had a really good laugh with my mother, and that was something that you would find in that gratitude section in my journal. And with that, I also celebrated my little wins, no matter how small they were, to 100%. If I was able to go out into the city again or go to the grocery store together with my mom, that was the highlight of my whole week, and I would make sure that I hype myself up about that and think, you go girl, you did that, like you need to be so proud of yourself. And I know that at first it felt cringe, it felt uncomfortable, it felt like I'm doing too much or I'm praising myself for something that's normal. You stop focusing so much on the negative side of whatever you're going through right now and again relieve the pressure, which is very crucial in your healing journey. And with that, I've gone through all of the tips that I wrote down that helped me back at the time. These tips are definitely not as extraordinary as you would probably expect and probably not something that you haven't heard before, but Throughout my whole healing journey, which has been going on for almost a decade now, I have come to the realization that the simplest things are the ones that help your soul and your mind the most. And that is why I chose to focus more on giving you more accessible, more easier tips, and you can then tailor them to your everyday life. A quick change of scenery. I'm actually dropping in because I wanted to end the video properly. However, I've been facing storage issues lately because I am recording everything on my iPhone 11. I do believe that healing doesn't have to be this complex process where you completely go out of your everyday life, where you dive into techniques or in practices that do not fit your everyday lifestyle, because that is nothing that you can sustain. And I feel like healing itself is not an easy process. Let's be honest, healing is hard. So I don't think that you need to make it even harder by inviting in methods or practices that do not fit to your lifestyle, as I said. Lastly, I simply want to add that healing is not linear. Life is not linear. We're all moving through the spiral, and there will probably be days where you feel like you're on top of the world, and there will be other days when you feel like things will never be fine again. But no matter how you're feeling right now, I want you to remind yourself that you are this neutral baseline, and you can create this baseline for yourself to which you can always return to, that safe space that you can always return to, that safe space that shows you that no matter what you're feeling right now is just a temporary emotion, it's just a temporary event, and once it passes you will still have yourself, you will still be there waiting at that baseline for yourself to return back home. And with that, I do hope that this video could be of some use to you and at least gave you a little bit of comfort, but I'm definitely looking forward to meeting you again on here. I'm not fully sure on what kind of content I want to focus on my YouTube channel, but I somehow decided to not niche down and just share whatever's on my mind. And lately I've been reading a lot of gothic poetry, which I would love to discuss with you, so maybe that will be the next video. Who knows? But until then, I'm sending you a lot of love from my heart to yours, and I'm wishing you a wonderful day wherever you are.